So that someone who only practices by shooting differently, randomly, every shot will get better faster than someone who does repetitive shooting drills. This is a great conversation. All right. So my thoughts are exactly what I just said for the last thing. Doing both is going to be best. Right. And I'm a kind of a living testament to this, but to me, it's just kind of what makes sense. This is why I don't like the conversations typically around CLA training or traditional training. When it comes to improving on a skill. So if I want to get better at shooting the basketball, this is why I say, just go shoot the ball, more. Cause a young player just needs to shoot the ball, build up strength in their shoulders and their forearms and their fingers, get a feel for how they're shooting. They experiment with shooting with this finger, two hands, hook shots, whatever. Go shoot thousands of shots. Go do that first. To me, that is the exploration and building up all these random attributes. Then you can go to a coach or a trainer and, well, hopefully it's a good coach or trainer, but then you can go to a coach or a trainer or a shooting specialist, and then they can dial in like, okay, maybe we're just going to catch and shoot. But the constraints, I guess you could say, the constraints are you can't move your left foot. So you can reach and move your right foot. You can do all this, but your left foot has to stay still. Now, to me, that could be looked at as traditional training because there's a lot of times where you want to put your left foot, you want to plant your left foot so that you can catch and you're not stepping out of bounds, right? Or vice versa. You want to plant your right foot. You want to catch and shoot. So you would be repping out the one movement of keeping one foot planted. So that would be traditional coaching because you're working on one repetitive thing. But someone who shoots jump shots, step backs, all these different shots is also getting better at catch and shoot threes where they're planting one foot. So I think it all works together. And then the skills that you learn with planting one foot are kind of going to spill over into your step backs. They're going to spill over into other avenues. So while I agree that someone repping out but a ton of different shots is going to be better than someone who reps out just one shot, I do think you're also missing part of it where there's a specific point that I think CLA misses, and I've spoken about this a bit on the channel, and this is going to be one of the in-depth conversations I want to have. I don't think CLA training accounts for mastery of a skill. So again, we look at Michael Jordan with that mid-range jump shot. Michael Jordan shooting all these different types of shots, threes, floaters, dunks, layups, mid-range, fadeaways, straight up jump shots, hang in the air shots, doing all of those. He kind of got really good at doing all of those pretty well, but then he did eventually master his fadeaway to where it looked the exact same every single time. So it's like, I feel like at the very beginning, it's like traditional, this is how I feel, I could be wrong. I think traditional work on one thing when you very first start, just so someone knows what they're trying to do, then branch off into try everything, try a bunch of different ways of doing stuff. Then when you get back to the top, it's like, okay, now let's single out each individual thing that we want to master. So that's my thoughts when it comes to mastery and basically muscle memory. If you practice the thing over and over, it becomes a habit, but consistency is key. It's not that black and white thing. The point is, it's commonly misunderstood topic. 100%. Remember you said that you were making a top 5 drills? I will. Kind of got a freestyle to get comfortable. Have you ever heard of Hal Weissel? I have not. No, I have not. But that kind of goes into, so one of the studies that a lot of the CLA guys use often is, Rob Gray especially uses this, but it's about the blacksmith study. Is it Berenstein? Is it the Berenstein blacksmith study? But one of the things he talks about is these expert blacksmiths. A researcher went around, Berenstein went around and studied all of these blacksmiths. It was hundreds of blacksmiths or something. And what he found was when they're hammering the anvil, you would expect, because they're experts, that they would swing the exact same over and over and over. But what he actually found was their swings were completely different. And for him, he said, oh, this shows me that to become an expert, you need to be able to swing in a bunch of different ways. And that's what makes you an expert. And I actually look at it completely different of No, I just feel like once you're an expert and once you're so competent, you can swing in a bunch of different ways and hit the exact same point. It's the same thing as like a really good shooter. Some people think a really good shooter, Steph Curry, has to do the exact same shot over and over. And it's because his shot is the same every time that he makes all these shots. And it's like, well, yeah, but Steph Curry also makes a lot of hook shots. He also makes a lot of weird step backs with weird different pocket pull-ups. Steph Curry is just a really good shooter. So it doesn't mean just because but there is like a level of most of his shots when he's in control and when he can control it are going to look the exact same and be the exact same technique. But he also can have a lot of success by doing different goofy kind of shots too. Generally agree with you about the mastery thing. Just think there's a certain amount of pedantry where one would just argue whether it's block training because XYZ or variable. I agree. That's why I kind of hate the whole topic of traditional training, block training, CLA training. I often say a good coach is just a good coach, or good training is just good training. Once you try to segment it or identify it as a specific thing, you've completely just changed what it is. But unfortunately, to have these conversations, you have to start learning and having the what do you call it? The vocabulary. So it's the same as when I've now started using a lot of the Micah Lancaster vocabulary. It's because I'm studying his stuff so much so that I can have these conversations and have good arguments too. But what were we originally wanting to argue? Oh, muscle memory. Yeah. So all of this comes back to like, I don't know. Do you guys if you play video games, have ever practiced full CLA? So opinions are mostly based on vibes. Yeah. So Yellow Hat, you play video games. For me, I just think of skill building the same way I think of skill when you're trying to play a new video game. I think of the same way as in sports. Like if I want to get better at a fighting game, and you have to remember back to before you were good at fighting games. I know for me, I can always think back to this moment, but if I'm trying to play a new fighting game, my fingers and thumbs, they just don't even move. They don't even move the right way to be successful. Even if I know the combo, if I know what move to do, if I know what to do in my head, I physically can't do the thing. So there's no amount of there's no amount of knowledge that's just going to get you to be able to execute the thing. But what you can do once you have that knowledge is you can actively train your hands to get better at certain techniques that you'll need to be able to be good at the game. So whenever I wanted, so Super Smash Brothers is one that I'll use as an example. But when you jump in Super Smash Brothers, if you push the jump button, your character jumps all the way up in the air. But to do some of their attacks, you actually need to just barely jump. So you got to barely tap the button. It's like a really quick tap. When I first started playing Super Smash Bros., I couldn't just barely tap the button. I pushed the button too hard every time. So I couldn't even do combos. I couldn't do anything. So what did I do to get better at that? I just practiced tapping the button. So that would be your block training, right? I would just tap the button. But I would also just play the game for fun and also try to remember to just tap the button while I was playing. So that can be your CLA training. That can be your just play, right? That can be my moments of I'm playing, but trying to actively learn while I'm playing. Then now I'm starting to attack. Now I can barely jump and then attack. Barely jump, then attack. Barely jump, then attack. And then you can barely jump and you can fast fall. So you can fall to the ground faster. So now instead of just pushing the button one time, now I've trained my brain and my hands to get to the point where I can jump. I can tap the button, tap the attack button, and push down on the thumbstick all in the same amount of time I used to just push the button. All right. So I've block trained my ability to have success in the game. But then the CLA training was trying this one repetition thing over and over and over. So I feel like they link together so well. Now when I play Super Smash Brothers, I don't even think about it. So that's the muscle memory aspect to me of like, I don't even think about jumping or doing a combo or what. Some of it is it's just second nature. I can just do the thing without having to think about it. So when I hear people say muscle memory doesn't exist, I'm like, explain Super Smash Brothers. Difference is though, you can spend way more time gaming than playing ball, depending on who you are. Who do I main in Smash? Zero Suit Samus. I'm a Metroid fan. So Samus, Zero Suit Samus, Ridley. An electric input and Tekken, exactly. Short hop, fast fall, L cancel, crouch dashing. Y'all out there doing crouch dashing, Korean back dashing. I'm pretty sure I built so much dexterity and whatnot from playing video games. Yeah, I did too. Mid-range Smash, Tony, we could. Card strategy games, but yeah, same thing for everything. 10,000 hours. Yeah, I agree. What is CLA? Constraint-led approach. So it's just putting constraints on your training. So instead of make 10 jump shots, CLA training might be make 10 jump shots, but you have to shoot it to where the ball goes over the backboard. Like you have to shoot it higher than the backboard. Now make 10 shots. Make 10 shots on one leg. Make 10 shots on the other leg. And then CLA training would say, now when you go shoot your normal 10 shots, you're better, right? That was very basic. That was very basic, but something like that. You just put constraints on specific drills or skills. Fox and Smash Bros. Now that I think about it, all the quick finger taps and far range attack strategies linked to your hoop skill set. For me, it's all like 50-50s and mix-ups and mental stacking. That's what fighting games, video games in general helped me with. Isn't that you just playing more and having more brain power and space to focus on the nitty gritty once you become better at the basics? Well, but that's what I'm saying. How can you pull apart and say one can exist without the other? That's the part that I struggle with. To me, that it all works together. So like I talk about mental stack. So if I'm playing a character that has 7 jumps and I have to keep count of my jumps, so I'm getting back to stage, but I'm also fighting that whole time, my brain is going to be fried because I'm counting jumps. The other person's not counting my jumps. I got to keep up with my jumps. I got to keep up with my combos. I got to keep up with what moves they're doing, but your brain gets fried. But the more you play that character, eventually you don't count the jumps anymore. You get a feel for how many jumps you have, what combos you can do, like how much distance you can cover. Then your brain power is not used on that anymore. Now your brain power is used completely on the other player, what they're doing and whatever. So now you've expanded your brain power. You've expanded more space to think of more things. But also you had to put that time into getting to that point where you're not taking up that brain power. So when I think about CLA training, I am probably going to have more success in CLA training because I've also done so much block training. But the kids that do a lot of block training in different specific skills will also have success in CLA training, or vice versa. CLA training kids will have success with block training because they've built up a bunch of random dexterity and good skills through CLA training. Muscle memory doesn't technically mean my bicep remembers how to do this thing, right? I don't think most people think that. That's why I say I hate the discussion between traditional training and CLA training because each side just assumes the other side is a complete idiot. I think being able to use both and being able to see both perspectives is actually what makes you a better coach, better player, better trainer. When you get stronger and have better cardio, the game slows down and you get better at making moves. Yeah, well, I would say those aren't one-to-one. Those don't exactly happen one-to-one, but typically being bigger, faster, stronger does help with the skill and all that other stuff. Gives you more options. I understand what you're saying. Muscle memory to me is you just practice a skill to where you don't have to actively think about it, right? So I always advocate for once you beat your defender, one dribble to the basket. The reason I teach that is because if you can get there in one dribble and your footwork and everything gets you prepared for one dribble, in a game, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to think of all these other things. Get there in one dribble. But the reason I like that is because you can lab out now. Okay, if I get there in one dribble and their help side comes over, I can D-Wade over the top, I can Euro step, I can jump stop. I have all these options that my body can just react because I've practiced so much with the one dribble. I can go rep that out. I can go do the block training so that whenever I get put into a 3-on-3, 2-on-2, a 5-on-5, now I can just react to the thing that I've practiced over and over. But you still need that practice in live game scenarios to put it together. Gravel versus turf thing you were saying earlier. Yeah, that is CLA training, right? But traditional coaches would say that's block training. Up B, it's down B. Down B for ZSS. Or were you being sarcastic? Rep out certain situations. Do you mean building muscle memory? Yeah, I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but Brawlhalla clears smash. Principle of CLA doesn't sound bad. What's the main issue with it? There's not a main issue with it. There is nothing wrong with CLA. There's nothing wrong with traditional there's nothing wrong with any method of any type of learning or whatever. The problem that most people have are when people treat them like gospels or like the only way. So a lot of people will treat CLA as like scientific based training, scientific based coaching, scientific based approach. So when you say that, it sounds like, oh, well, obviously we want to be scientific about it. But a lot of the science built up around CLA is like either false science or it's not very strong. It's more like studies have been done, but the studies aren't conclusive. But when you say science-based, it makes it sound more proper. But it's the same thing with block and traditional training. A traditional coach might say, well, we've always done it this way and it's always worked, so that's why we do it. But then that's not a very satisfying answer to why we should do something a certain way, right? Because it's always worked. Well, could it have been better? Is there a better way to do it? Nope, we've always done it this way. So there's good and bad on both sides. But at the end of the day, I think the coaches that are willing to just go learn CLA training, go learn traditional block training, go learn multiple different ways and then figure out what works for you. Just like I say with skills training in general. Didn't start playing organized ball until later than most. I did so much exploration that it was yeah, I did too. I played a lot of sports. I didn't play organized basketball until 4th grade, and that was just school ball. It wasn't like anything serious. So we didn't do serious training or whatever. We played like 6 games a year or something stupid. So I didn't really get serious into basketball until older, but I played a lot of video games, played a lot of different like football and volleyball and just whatever. I was always in the swimming pool. We were always outside playing. And then when I came into basketball, I feel like all those skills from different areas helped translate to on the basketball court. What do you think is more important, skill or conditioning, if you had to choose one? Depends on the level. High school, probably conditioning. If you're the biggest, strongest, fastest in high school, you're probably pretty successful. But also, if you're the most skilled kid, you're probably both. It's tough to tell. For strength conditioning, would a set of dumbbells do? And for diet, I just have whatever my parents make. Yeah, don't overthink it while you're a kid. Like, eat what you have. Most people in America, most people in like first world countries, you're at least getting the nutrition you need. Obviously, try to not have tons of sugars and fats, like fast food when you can't, like avoid fried food when you can. Like, I'm not saying never have fast food. Avoid fried food when you can, soda when you can. Like, don't overthink it as someone. I don't know how old you are, and please don't share your age on the internet. It depends. Like, just make sure you're getting enough protein, you're getting enough carbs, and make sure you're getting enough. But really, it's going to be, just get a little bit stronger each time you're in the weight room. Just get a little bit stronger. In football, the Anderlecht Football Club development instructor has repetition equals automation. Yeah, it's fun. You hear this the most and this is where my CLA training has taken me. You hear this the most in not judo. I forget now. Rolling, jujitsu. I'm seeing a lot of this in jujitsu, and I'm seeing some very interesting conversations with CLA training and traditional rote training, they call it, in jujitsu. But I've also found some very interesting, my findings have surprised me, but also reinforced my beliefs on the whole topic. I'd say traditional is fine, but CLA is just more efficient. Maybe. Depends on efficient for what. Someone training traditionally will progress maybe 5 to 10% slower, kind of based on vibes. And that's what I mean. Like, I can build a scenario for both. I can build a scenario where I can build a scenario where traditional training is better, and I can build a scenario where CLA training is better. But we don't have to. I think both. I think the most optimal is always going to be someone who is able to train in both. If I was just to play as a beginner, amateur, what would I focus on for optimal results? Go watch my main channel. That is all what my main channel is about. The most efficient, optimal, effective way to become a better basketball player. Skill versus conditioning with LP. But they both also have a lot of skill. So it's tough to make it one-to-one. Have I done any martial arts? No. I mean, when I was little, nothing serious, but I study a lot of sports in general, just because for most sports, any problems that you run into in a sport, typically another sport has already solved it. So I like studying different sports just to see how they work. I like game theory and stuff. Any tips to get better with dribbling? We just did a video on that. And I've got a video over on my main channel. Do I read a lot of books? I used to read a lot. Now I just read books whenever I find something that interests me. How do I study? A lot of YouTube. YouTube is a really good way to study. Listen to experts debate. I listen to a lot of experts debating each other. So, for example, I am doing a project on CLA training versus traditional training. And most of my research on it has been listening to debates of experts arguing their points for CLA training versus traditional training. And then from listening to their debates, sometimes they'll cite different studies or different books. So I'll write that down. And then in my own time, I'll go back and look at those studies. That's the way I study and improve my knowledge. I just find things that are interesting and I go look them up. And then try to add to the conversation in some way. Try to find something that, or add my own personal knowledge to it somehow. ABC versus OTD commentator, 3v3, that'd be dope. Who influenced me to play basketball? My mom. I was raised by a single mom, and she had me really young. So she was she was about to go to college when she had me. So then when she went to college and was playing basketball, I was just always around it. Went on trips, went on the away trips and stuff with her. And I've just always been around basketball. Grew up in the gym. When you read a book, you end up retaining nothing. Well, you're probably not interested in whatever you're reading. That's why I said I only read stuff I'm interested in. So for example, I just finished, I don't know where the book is. I just finished Coleman's book on By Any Means Basketball's book on his type of training, which is kind of more CLA. I did Transforming Basketball. I just ordered a couple books. I won't say what they're about because we keep politics and religion out of out of online discourse. But I just find interesting books that I want to learn more about. And so typically I'll be taking notes or something throughout it. I showed you guys my notes for Transforming Basketball, right? So I read Transforming Basketball, and this is what my notes look like on it. So when I read a book, I typically take notes. These are all the notes that I took on it. So yeah, I think when you're reading, if it's a topic you're interested in, you take notes. I think most people don't do that, and that's why they don't retain information.